What's going on, Andy?
Hey Scott, not much.
Hey,
Hey Steve, how you
Scott,
doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Hey, Scott, we missed that poll. How did that first poll look in terms of who has TI and who
it was
doesn't?
60-40, 60
Okay.
subscribers, 49.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. The
great.
opposite of what it was the other day. Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Doing good. Doing
all
good.
right.
Sitting in for Jamie today. Yeah, Jamie's heading out to Texas, so we just fill in for each other around here, and I'll be running the sidekick shotgun with Andy for today's webinar.
Oh yeah, it's I always get this nostalgic feeling when this happens, Steve. For the longest time, Steve and I used to do this every day for oh gosh, pretty much like Barry did, for several years, and we continue to educate people. So yeah, we've done our share of webinars together. So this is always, like I said, feels good to have you back in the saddle with me.
That's right.
All right, guys, thank you for taking time out of your day to come join us. We got some pretty cool stuff to talk about. We're going to talk a lot about Holly today. She had what I thought was a really incredible day. We're going to go through a lot of her trades and dissect them. But before we do that, and before we talk about anything else, let's handle the legal issues. As always, guys, this is for educational purposes only. Anything you see in here is for educational purposes. It should not be construed as investment advice. If that's what you're seeking, you might want to look for an RIA or a registered advisor. But we're gonna have a lot of fun and show some cool stuff that can help you capitalize in the marketplace. And for you guys who are out here kicking tires, and for some of you new people who don't realize all this resources we have to help continue to educate you and support you here at Trade Ideas, we really pride ourselves on this. And it starts in the trading room with Barry Arneson. He's in there pretty much 7 hours a day. You get to look over his shoulder. You get to see his desktop. You get to hear him live calling out trades, navigating our software and the market simultaneously. There's about 500 traders in there, 500 plus every day. Just a great experience, a great place. It's free to everybody. You don't have to be a Trade Ideas subscribers, but we are confident that you will be once you see the magic that Barry can do in there with this software. And then we have four webinars a week. Usually a combination of me, Jamie Hodge, and Steve Gomez, but we do treat you to the CEO, Dan Merkin, and Brad Williams on Wednesday for kind of a Q&A/demo type, where you can come in and ask questions. You can sit to see a lot of the software, and it's a great experience to be in there with those two guys who pretty much built this company, are a huge part of it. But anyway, these webinars, same time slot every day, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Time slot, and that's the Eastern Standard Time. So, and it doesn't stop there, guys. I don't have a slide for it, but we do have what's called a one-on-one hour of power training session. These normally cost $99. I do a lot of them, and the beauty about signing up with Trade Ideas is once you do, you get a free one. Okay, your first one is free. It's an hour where you'll spend with me, Jamie, or Steve, and we'll pretty much use that hour to do whatever you want to. If you know the software pretty well, we can go down the road of maybe doing some coaching, mentoring, talking about trading. Or if you need help creating alerts, creating layouts, we can spend a good portion of it doing that as well. But anyway, most of the people who come out of that, I get more people complimenting me just how much they have learned during that 1 hour. And once again, that's free when you sign up with Trade Ideas, even on the monthly plan. So take advantage of that. All right, let's jump into our agenda for today. We're going to do a quick market recap, maybe talk a little bit about window dressing for some of you people who really don't know what that might be. And we're going to talk a lot about the Holly recap because I think there's a lot to talk about today. I threw in something there, a little added little segment here on Andy's Law of Inertia. And I've kind of threw comments about this concept that I'm about to talk about in other webinars, but I'm going to dig deeper into it today. And trading Holly, a lot of people, I get this a lot of time in my sessions, how do you trade Holly? Which ones do you know to take and which ones you don't? We're going to dig deeper into that. Holly is a very special alert, and I'm not going to go too far in it because we'll come back to it and talk about it. But anyway, it's more to it than just buying everything that you're alerted to and selling when she does. It's just or when she exits. And we'll dive into that. But the first thing to do, let's go into the my desktop here with my software, and let's pull up the spiders and go over the market real quick. And like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but here's a look at the spiders today. And over the last 4 days, Steve mentioned a couple of days ago, we talked about how this market tried to sell out, gap down, but actually ended up closing above this trend line that it's been holding now for some time. And so for me, as far as that concerned, when you're just using closing prices, that trend line is still intact. We've built on it 3 consecutive days since. Today, we butted right into this level that we kind of broke down from, and ran into some, what was prior support now comes resistance. And that's what we kind of ran into today. You can see it on the 15-minute, just could not quite get through there. But as me and Steve were prepping, we were just astonished, how much better the Qs look, and they are, pretty much back on an all-time high. And a lot of that Steve was mentioning to me, and I totally agree with it. A lot of what we call window dressing. We're at the end of the quarter, and you see this a lot at the end of the quarters. And what these funds will do, hedge funds, mutual funds, they want to prop up their books because they're getting ready to send out those quarterly statements, and they want it to look good. And if they're not in some of the stocks like Apple, Amazon, come on now, don't get slow on me. Amazon, they want to make sure it's going to be showing in their books. So what do? They have to go out and buy the stock. And when big funds buy stocks, they just don't buy a couple of hundred shares. They got to show some decent quantity. So
isn't that cheating?
Go ahead. Yeah, you would think it would be, Steve.
I mean, really, you're trying to mislead your people who open up statements into thinking, oh, okay, good, we own Amazon. Great. Yeah, you just bought it this morning, but okay.
Exactly. But it goes on, and you do have what's called, basically propping up the market to, like I said, make those statements look good. So I think, guys, what you should watch out, you're probably going to see more of this, tomorrow, the last day of the month, and just kind of holding it up. I'm not sure how much we'll power forward, but I really think you should watch. I think that the true direction of the market in the short term, I think, is going to really be reflected in the coming months of April. So keep that on your mind. It's been a nice 4-day run, but we're still, we're kind of on a downtrend going back to this month, and that we may run into that trend line. I'm not going to draw it, but you can kind of picture it. But nonetheless, let's see what happens. And pretty much IWM, it ran right up to there. If I can, you can see right here, it ran right to their trend line and pretty much stopped today as well. So I am not going to, unless you have something to add, Steve. You got anything you want to add on window dressing or the market?
Going back to the spiders, it just looks like, mission accomplished technically. The trend line held. We backed right back up into the prior resistance line. I saw a lot of good traders that I chat with during the day that said, boy, today's starting to feel like a Friday. This is probably the perfect place for this to really end. But we got one more day in the month, one more day in the quarter. I'm kind of anticipating just a real low, not a low volume, but kind of a narrow range day tomorrow. Not a lot of direction. I think we're just trying to limp across the finish line of quarter one. And like Andy said, let's see how the first couple of days of April next week set the tone for where we go next.
Oh, exactly. All right, so let's kind of go back to my. Do I need to do that? Probably not. Yeah, because I do. I want to go into what I've talked about and what I've done here today, guys. You talked about. Well, let me just dive into Andy's Law of Inertia. And of course, I stole this from Isaac Newton's Law of Inertia. But anyway, stocks in motion tend to stay in motion in the same direction, unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Much similar to Isaac's Law of Inertia. But I've been stating this, a lot in my webinars, and I think people could really capitalize on holding positions longer once they start to understand, and quite honestly, I'm seeing this is more pronounced ever since algorithm trading started coming to the market about 8 or 9 years ago. I'm seeing it just more and more prevalent in the marketplace. And there's a reason for that, because these algos do understand technical analysis. They see where support resistance lines are. And like I said, I'm seeing this more and more. And I want to give you this concept today and kind of expand on it, so it will help you to stay in trades longer, even if it's just a small portion. The more you continue to do this, the more you'll be able to hold positions longer, because that's what makes the real difference between traders who really profit in the marketplace, who really can make a living at the trading in the markets and really do quite well, versus the people who think they just want to come in and scalp out for 10 or 15 cents and move on to the next trade. Usually those guys don't last very long, because commissions will eat you up. Your losers will, your losers plus your commissions are going to, outweigh your profits. So there's only two ways to, improve on your profits. Okay, you have to cut losses, or let your winners run longer. Most people are good about cutting losses, but they have a hard time letting their winners run longer. So I'm gonna show you 4 trades a day, and these were all Holly trades. Okay, if you were just trading Holly and you saw these trades, you could have held these things to what I call, the unbalanced force, basically the next area of resistance. So let's just move forward here. Let me expand this back out for us, and let's take a look at the first one. And this is Viacom. And this is a trade you can see went off there. I don't have the, you're just going to have to trust me on the 15-minute chart, but we have the blue arrow here, and we have the price that it alerted us on at 45.44. Okay, and then once again, we always talk about looking left. The trade went off. There was no, basically a 6, 7, 8 month high, whatever it is there. But just look where it finally went. I mean, it took all day to get there, but look at this area over here where I say a lot of time, I call it its destiny. And when I see stocks like this breaking out of a range, I'm always looking, left, where there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing to stop that. It's like a river cutting itself, way through. It's going to take the path of least resistance, and the least resistance here is just up until it runs into resistance. So there's a great example of a Holly trade today that, if you would just applied some good old trader instinct and technical analysis, how you could have held this trade for almost a whole dollar there. So that's one example. Well, that's probably the best example. The next one is ConocoPhillips. And you know what? I probably didn't click. I probably just pulled this up on my own, and I didn't click my my Holly symbol. But I think it went off. I'm not sure where it went off, but I think there was about 50 or 60 cents to be made in this trade. Could you look for me real quick, Steve?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm taking a look here.
I think it was around
49.71.
Okay, 49.71. Okay, so that went off. Once again, as soon as it went off, I pulled up this chart and I put my little horizontal line there. I said, well, there's my next area of resistance. It just wasn't anything over here, to prevent it from not going. You had some pretty good resistance here, a lot of wicks here, here. You did have one that it could have got to. It looks like it almost tried to, but nonetheless, if you learn these levels of resistance and try to hold stocks longer to those levels, you're going to find yourself reaping a whole lot of more profits, guys. And another one.
I was gonna add something just in the middle of all that. You hear a lot of people say, and wrongfully so, yeah, you trader, what's your win percentage? Okay, that matters not. Okay, that's just half the story, the win percentage. The other half is, well, how long did you hold, and how long did you cut the losers, and how long did you hold on to the winners? I see, and I know a lot of great traders out there who actually brag, and they say, my win percentage is like 55%, and I'm okay with that. because I know when to cut the ones that aren't working. And the other side of the coin is I know how to try and let these things move through their destiny and work for me. Again, I said it in my other webinar, and I'll say it again, it's worth saying. We as humans are wired to fear, but we're wired to fear the wrong thing when we're trading. We're wired to fear that hunter-gatherer instinct we have, which is the bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. But the way the traders make money really is figure out a way to get the two birds in the bush. And make and manage and mitigate the risk that you have, so that if you do have, I mean, there's a lot of great traders out there. Again, Dan Zinger's, one of them, and he's a great swing trader, and he says the same thing all the time. The money is made in the sitting, not in the quick scalps and the quick in and outs. The money is made in patience. But again, that's so hard for us as human beings because we are wired to fear that $1,000 we see on our P&L might be gone if something bad happens. But we look left on the chart and we see its destiny has another couple $1,000s still to go. But it's so hard for us not to ring that button. Well, one thing you can do is sell half. That's always been something we've talked about, but that just really accentuates the whole thing that we can't help it. We're wired as human beings to take the bird in the hand versus go for the two in the bush. But the money in trading is made identifying, like Andy's showing us, the destinies that these things need to go to, doing whatever you got to do to distract yourself, let me just say, from continually pulling it up and trying to talk yourself out of why you shouldn't just take the money here and run. So, keep that in mind. I think it's a great thing. What I was trying to reiterate is that you don't have to be a 75% win percentage trader. You just have to be able to identify and manage risk, and most importantly, have the patience to let some of these stocks that are going in the proper direction go the amount of time without us intervening and getting involved and cutting ourselves short. That's all I wanted to say.
No, very good, very well said, and he's right. You're going to find that to really make profits in this market, you're going to have to learn to hold trades longer. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you get into the habit of taking them really quick. You got to. So the way I say do that, even if it's only 100 shares, heck, even if it's 50 shares, try to start holding on to a little bit until you reach these levels of destiny, we're calling. So, and you'll find here, it's interesting, and there's a reason for this, because you'll find they'll go through these numbers a lot, before they pull back, because what happens is now you have it breaking out of a monthly high and a multi-month high, possibly a yearly high, and then you have extra, short covering, whatever, they'll push it further through. But anyway, there's one, and I think we have one more here, and this was one that that went off. Actually, this is one I think we had two trades go off on. The first one was at 4:36 this morning, and I'll show you in a little bit on the 15-minute chart where it also had volume in that very first 15-minute bar. So you had a nice entry there at 4:36. You had, it is kind of sloppy. I will grant it that, but when I see some volume coming in and, getting through this level right here, I'm telling myself, it's probably going to go to there, and it actually ended up going way above there. But anyway, notice these levels, guys, where you can possibly, hold on to these trades because, and I'm not joking, this seems much more pronounced, since algorithmic trading, because, and I think there's a reason for that, because they're watching these levels too, and of course machines are not emotional, and they can hold on to trades a lot longer than we can. But and not only that, they're buying more and pushing it higher. But that's good for now. Let me get back to this. That's all I wanted to share on that. I wanted to talk about Holly today, and what I kind of wanted to do, because she had a very impressive day. Risk off, she was up 96 cents. Risk on, she was up $3.18, and you can see it down here in the bar graph. Unfortunately, we've been having a little bug right at the close on our histogram. It was fine all day, but then right at the close, it gets all jacked, and we're working on that. We should have it fixed shortly, but it kind of comes and goes. But nonetheless, I know if you guys are out there watching it, that the risk on was 318. So a very impressive day, I thought, by Holly. The market obviously was up some, but nothing like Holly on our risk on column or her risk off. But what I wanted to do today is spend some time, because I hear once again, a lot of traders just not knowing how to trade Holly. And I'm going to reflect back to my agenda today. And what you have to think Holly, what I think of her as, is a very, very special alert. I have alerts in top lists, a lot of them saved in my cloud that are special, but Holly's is very special. And the reason Holly is very special, because she places casino odds kind of in my favor. And the way she does that is each night she takes all of our strategies, she optimizes them, she back tests them, she runs them over and over in every scenario you can imagine through all our filters. And then the next morning she presents the best strategies that we say make the cut, with the winning percentage and the profit factor. So you kind of know your odds, going into this, what if a trade fires off, you can look over there, see the winning percentage. Obviously, every day is different. Okay, these are back tested data. We never know if it's going to hold true to form, but we have a good idea based on 60 days of back testing. So that being said, I still want to use my God-given trader instincts and my talents, my chart reading talents, my gut feeling, like I said, and just and decide for myself what I want to take and what I don't want to take. So I'm just going to go through a few today and just kind of give you the logic, what goes through my head if I'm looking at some of these, and what I'm what I'm thinking about. And Stephen, I was kind of showing him today, and he kind of agreed with me. A lot of these charts, even though they're based on statistical probability, I'm going to pass on a few of them, and maybe even quite a few of them, depending on the market. And that's another issue. You got to understand, it's not just an alert. Okay, you can't. I always say, not one trade works, inside a bubble. There's so many other factors and variables that you have to be focused on. What's the market doing? What is the sector doing? Its peers. What's the underlying commodity doing? If you're jumping in a gold stock or an oil stock or a bank. So, well, I guess it's not for bank, but gold and oil anyway. So anyway, let's take a look at some of these, and I'll start from the bottom, and some of them I'm going to skip over. Maybe some of the 50, the ones that really just didn't do a whole lot at all. I'm just going to jump over those. But the first one that fired off today was Sears Holding. Okay, the first thing that enters my mind when I see this, and once again, guys, I'm mostly focused on the daily. Okay, daily are your true footprints in the sand. Okay, I like to use 15-minute charts or a 5-minute chart for an entry sometimes, but basing on whether I take a trade or not, or where my exit's going to be, I'm watching the daily. The first thing that jumps out at my mind when I see this go off is, man, this thing's had a big move. It's gone from $8 to $12. Okay, that's about 80% move. Okay, first red flag.
8 to 12?
Second red flag, I'm looking at, go ahead.
From 8 to 12?
I'm sorry?
8 to 12,
well,
you said? That's a 50%
yeah.
move.
I'm sorry?
That'd be a 50% move.
No, it's $6. No, wait, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry, 50% move. Sorry, Steve. Somehow I had $6 in it. Thank you for correcting me there. Okay, so a 50% move, a big move in a week. Anyway, regardless, but that won't stop me a lot of times. But now I'm looking at the chart yesterday, and I'm seeing this big old wick, with the tail come down and closing far off its high, and there's just not. And then I look over here at the 15 minutes, a quick move up, and then pulling back. I'm just not seeing a whole lot there. But it would scare me anytime I see a stock, with this many days in a row.
With that topping tail. That topping tail was the one that did me. And when Andy showed me that, I said, "Oh gosh, I never would have thought that Sears Holding could do that today after that topping tail."
Yep, exactly. Now, if the tail would have been reversed and you had a bottom tail like that, it could be a different story. But I agree with Steve. So anyway, nonetheless, it's one of our newest momentum strategies that we've given Holly, and yesterday she had some incredible plays off that. Fresh, I talked about this one already, and I will reiterate again. Looking at the 15-minute chart, you had a nice drive right at the open there, 15-minute. you know, it's one, you know, looking over here, I don't like this back and forth slop action like this, but it's one where I may give a shot just based on the volume. You know, you can see the daily volume there had one of its best volume, upside volume days in a while. So, and plus clearing this level right here, I would think, yeah, there's a chance. I would take a chance on this. Now, you know, I could understand somebody who might not, because it is kind of a sloppy trading stock. Tara, you know, I didn't like this when it went off. You know, you got a pretty good running right into a kind of a downtrend line. Seeing this action, you know, right in the first 15, you know, minutes. If I did take that trade, it'd be one, you know, that I probably would got out for no worse than a flat, just because I'm really not liking this daily chart pattern right here. Steve, anytime you want to jump in, just do so.
Okay.
Mo, I wasn't crazy about this one right off the bat, and I'll show you why. You know, it's like I see what it was looking at. Okay, I highlighted where the alert went off there. You know, at 63. The support over here, and but nonetheless, I didn't like the fact that it broke these two levels of support. Okay, because what happens when I see that alert? Okay, just like I was showing you to the upside, the level of resistance, I'm looking right here, and I'm looking at the low of this bar right here, and it's 72.44. So that's 20 cents right there to the downside, just to that bar right there. So, you know, I would pass on that. And this is not just hindsight, guys. This is just common, you know, to me. You know,
the price action should have been building off of that first green candle, and it wasn't. It was more like it was decaying. It was decaying.
Absolutely.
And then trying to go long right there was just kind of a tough proposition for somebody who's got 10,000 hours of looking at that chart.
Exactly. Yeah. So skipping over the 50-cent stock, Momo, I kind of discussed that one already. I'm not going to go back into that one. Morgan Stanley. This one was just had buy written all over it to me, and the reason is I'm always watching, you know, sectors. So I see, and you know, before it even goes off, I'm looking over here. I'm seeing the regional banks at the top. You got oil below that, and then right below that is XLF. And just trust me, it was this way all day, and it was this way this morning when that MS. So I know the financials are in favor. Okay. You know, I could always, if I didn't, go over here and see what Goldman Sachs was doing. It's kind of the leader in that sector, and it was having a nice move. So to me, this is a no-brainer. Okay. Not only that, Holly is, you know, calling it out. So I know my casino odds are in my favor. The sector is strong. There's just a lot of things, you know, it's breaking through that the strategy was pushing through resistance. So I know it's either breaking through or about to break through this high right here, going back to yesterday at 43.25. So she actually even gave you a little head start at 43.10 there. So to me, yeah, no brainer. So this is the kind of logic that when I'm seeing alerts, I'm applying to Viacom, another no brainer. I mean, it's just a very, very strong chart pattern. And even though it's had a few days up in a row, nothing like a, you know, Sears holding. This is something that's only moved a couple of bucks on a $45 stock. So breaking out of this high right here, just a no-brainer to me.
One of the things I like is that first green candle, a beautiful long bottoming tail on that first green candle. And then we had a couple green candles basically, you know, right around resistance. But if we're going to take out highs, you know, that's when you got to take a look. There was no reason the day prior with, you know, any major rejections. It was just kind of a slow creep up. But that bottoming candle on that first green candle, as you had mentioned earlier, like on that shield trade, well, you know, that was a topping candle, topping tail that really threw Steve and I off. Well, if it was a bottoming candle, that might be a different story. Well, there's a prime example right there of kind of what you were saying on shield. Why is there a blue arrow up for short trades? We're working on that. I'm just going to answer a quick question. We're working on the new version coming out, the arrow pointing down for the short trades to not be so confusing. It's a good question.
Okay. PGTI, this one, I'm not going to go into this. Just not a whole lot happening, you know, on this trade right here. Like I said, there's a lot of trades today, and I don't want to spend a time on, you know, kind of the same thing there. I mean, it looked okay, but just not a whole lot going on. And I guess there's more I want to talk about. IDXG, I thought this had a chance this morning because I love the strategy, looking for a bounce. You know, okay, had a nice little gap up. But what I don't like about it, when you give up that much of your gap, you know, and almost close it, you know, be careful. They just don't ever tend to work, you know, when you give up that much of the gap. If you give up 50, 60%, but man, when you give up, you know, 80, and you start giving up 80, 75, 80% of your gap, be careful, because that tells you there's some real selling going on. But nonetheless, I do like the idea that it's trying to catch a bounce and it's looking for a bounce, and that's one. It's very low risk reward type trade, and where it fails, you know, you hang on to it for, you know, whatever, 30 minutes, and then it rolls back over. You just get out. You simply get out, and that's what I think actually Holly got out. That how did you get out at reduced risk at 10 cents? Well, we'll figure out that later. This one was a beautiful one. This one was one that she had 2 trades on. And, you know, what I like about this one, and I don't think I actually put this in my, you know, inertia. I think I forgot to put this one in there. But nonetheless, the alert went off at 11:50. There's not a whole lot. You know, when I see one little bar, it doesn't scare me. That, to me, that is not solid resistance. It's one bar, you know, but when you go up here, then you start talking about some nice levels of resistance there. 1, 2, 3, 4. But a beautiful trade nonetheless. You know, she got out for a time stop on this first trade, but risk on went on to, you know, gain another 85 cents. And when you see Holly get out for a time stop, remember, she's optimized to exit, you know, on back-tested data over and over, and so her time stop is also optimized as well. But once again, if you see the technicals all staying in place, she got out at 58 cents. So she basically got out right, you know, probably right before she broke out. The stock broke out. So if you're in this trade and you're seeing this develop, and she gets out for a time stop, my Lord, you got a nice up candle about to break out of the highs of the day, just going another, you know, 10 cents. You know, by all means, you know, hang on to a little of it. You know, it's just to me, I just the way to handle it too. FTech, I'm not going to go into that. Not a whole lot happened there. ConocoPhillips, we kind of already discussed this, but I need to reiterate more. Okay, this one, what I liked about this one was this was her downtrend. She gapped above her downtrend. Huge volume coming in. I actually saw her on the Alpha Predator. ConocoPhillips on the Alpha Predator. So just a lot of things lining up. You had huge volume. There was news this morning. Holly calls her out on nice chart, and I see her on Alpha Predator. So a lot of things I'm looking for, and then plus you have pretty much this blue sky all the way up to, you know, the 50-30 level. So just a lot of things, you know, happening there that had where I had confidence, where I think you could make 50 or 60 cents off this trade. So beautiful. I'm liking to see that Holly is not afraid to make some big cap trades. She made a few today. Let's see. I'm about to wrap it up, Steve, unless you have anything that jumps out at you. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of things that are going through my head when I'm looking at Holly trades. You know, I'm always looking at there's a second entry in RYI at 1175. So you had a double confirmation there in RYI. So you had 2 entries, one at 1135, one at 1175, as she broke through this level. And just very nice trade. But
somebody's asking me if we ever do any shorting, and there's 2 answers to that. Yes, we do, when the time is right. The time right now is not right, judging by the way this market gapped up and just smacked the shorts in the head with the oar of their canoe. Once again, time is not right. However, go ahead and throw up Domino's Pizza, DPZ, because occasionally I do have some scans that look for trend changes, and DPZ to me looks like it's trying to get a little heavy and maybe break through some of the ice there. So you could probably just easily draw just a little orange line, Andy, and that's the kind of thing that I would be looking for. I have a scan called the Trend Change Lubricant, which looks for the exact opposite, stocks that are beaten up, downtrending, but turning and basing and making new 20-day highs. So to answer your question, this was found on the flipped inverted version of the Trend Change Lubricant, a scan that looks for stocks trending up but starting to lose their trend and roll over and make new 20-day lows. And so these are the kind of setups that we start to see, and DPZ was one that I thought was interesting. It's had, if you zoom out, it's had quite the move and hasn't really, it's just been doing a lot of sideways action. So it's been a really nice runner, and it could be time to give some back. So just a little bone there to throw. Keep that DPZ with that orange level for the most part. If you guys have some alerts that you're either hopefully premium trade ideas price alerts, or most of your brokers will have price alerts. And so that brings us to kind of a good little segue here. We're going to put together.
I got one Steve.
Yeah.
One other one while he's talking about shorts, because I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up this one. This was a Holly short today, and I'm going to give you a way to play some of these Holly shorts, because when it first went off, I kind of cringed because the market was close to highs. It was on Mylan Lab. And I drew, and there's another one that kind of fulfilled its destiny. But the alert went off at 40:07, okay? And I'm pulling it up, and I'm kind of cringing for three reasons, okay? First of all, there's strength in the market. The market's very strong. Even though there's relative weakness here, the market is very strong. Okay, another one is the whole number. Okay, you have a whole number at 40. Whole numbers have a tendency to be areas of support and resistance. It's where a lot of your orders get placed, around whole numbers. And then you also just had some good old-fashioned support that it needed to get through, right around here. But anyway, if you were watching this today when she called it out, and maybe you didn't like it because it went off when the market was really strong, but you say to yourself, well, you know what? I'm going to put a price alert in here, because if it breaks 40, maybe I'm interested, and because you can just come in here, create a price alert, and I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to mess up my price alerts, but anyway, and then when it broke, as soon as it broke 40, I mean, gosh, you had some nice, had about a nice 40 cent move to the downside. But anyway, nonetheless, that was a nice short from Holly today. Even though she, risk off was down a nickel, that was definitely a good idea of a short trade right there. Everything was setting up. All right, Steve, sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say we were going to spend, the rest of the video here kind of showing how to use trade ideas after hours, how to use trade ideas on the weekends, how to use it for homework. What's some of the ways? Because people look at this and they think, well, this just looks like it's just a lot of blinking lights, and when the market's turned on, that's where the value is. But not necessarily true. Speaking especially to those who have the price alerts. Price alerts are a wonderful accompaniment to trying to simplify trading. And when we're doing homework in the evenings or even on the weekends, we're all in a different state of mind than we are after the bell rings. Maybe we even have a couple of glasses of wine, but we're looking at things through an objective pair of eyes and a Zen type focus. Now, it's difficult to do that, in real time, because we've got alerts coming through the day, but Andy's going to show you a way in which we can use top lists, especially top lists. Those are going to be your best bread and butter end of day scans to try and just come in and see how things went out for the day. And he'll also show you how we can change the time a little bit. But this is where it really does, come into having a trader's eye, looking for the kinds of things that Andy's been talking about here on the charts and the daily charts for the last half hour. Where can we find some interesting setups And if we can find any interesting setups that catch our eye, what do we do with them? How do we mark them up and let the price alerts come to us? Because we talk to a lot of new traders, and a lot of them are like, boy, my head is really spinning. I've been in this chat room, I've been in that chat room, I tried following this guy and I was too fast and it wasn't for me. And what we got to do is get people to realize that trading is an art form, and it comes down to your own personality. And if you want to slow things down, well, you should be not probably trying to chase the alpha predators and the crazy ones that low floaters in the morning. There's other ways to skin a cat and do it in a slower fashion. I know there are certain types of people that can't watch the market all day long. I've got a couple of scans that I look for. One of them in particular, the washout bounce, which unfortunately did not have anything today. But maybe it gives me a really good long hammer candle that I can focus on for the next couple of days. Now, I think what Andy's going to do is he's going to pull back a really good one that he's created recently. Rather than buying breakouts, using the trade ideas to try and find pullbacks to areas of interest, especially like a moving average or something along those lines. So, there's a few different ways. And again, the T windows, the top list windows are your best bet to do that, because at the end of the day, you can really sort those and see what they're doing. But when Andy gets a second, I'll show you how you can also use the A window and use the A window history and go back and kind of check and see, well, what was coming out in the morning or what was coming out in the afternoon? Was there something that I missed? So the point is, we're trying to catch things that we may have missed during regular market hours and mark them up using our price alerts, because again, that's a different way of trading, not chasing your tail and chasing other people and trying to emulate other people. It's a way of kind of sitting at the bar, sipping your drink and letting the trades come to you and remembering, oh yeah, it was Sunday night, I really liked that trade because it was going to break out with 34% short the float or what have you, as an example. So you'll hear us say sometimes chance favors the prepared mind. That's basically what your job is as a trader, is to try and spend some hours on the off hours looking at some setups and preparing your mind so that chance does favor the prepared mind. If that alert goes off, it's no better than or no worse than any other alert you might see in a chat room or something else. It's something that you found on your own in a nice Zen state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very well said. And he's right. He's right. That's what you do. It doesn't have to be on the weekends too. It can be in the evening. And that's what I like about these top lists. And that's why when you do create a top list, you always want to have it set on time frame live during market hours, because what that does, it causes stocks to freeze once the market close in here for you. So when you do your nightly scans or your weekend scans, you're going to have stocks available in here for you to take a look at. This is one, if you've been coming to my webinars over the last couple of months that I created about 3 or 4 months ago. It works very well for swing trading, position trading, but you can also find some nice little day trades off as well. It's looking for a pullback. We're not going to have time to go in and dissect, the top list itself. I will share it and drop it into the chat window so you guys can have it and take a look at it yourself. But basically, it's looking for stocks that are pulling back on the 5-day time frame and yet putting in a nice bullish setup candle. So say, yeah, you're sitting here on it's Saturday and you have a number of stocks in here. You can just start clicking through them, looking for the setup. And there you go. There's a nice one right here. The volume is kind of thin on this one, but nonetheless, beautiful chart, nice uptrend. Recently, a multi-month high anyway, and pulling back and putting in what I call a nice, beautiful little bar there. So what I would do, if I want to buy it, if it takes out that high, yeah, at 1669. So I would just go in here and create a price alert and put it on.
Love that topping tail
69.
too. 4 days ago, I was going to point out to people that's what usually happens after you see a topping tail wick like that. And then 3 to 4 days, sometimes 3 days is the magic number of pullbacks. Get the weak hands out, reset, build a new higher base camp, and all of a sudden we're alerted to it. And the market that has a funny way of going 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, we're using the 2 steps back action as our opportunity to gain an entry and not get frustrated on being chasing.
exactly. But and that's the beauty of top list, guys. I was, if you're wanting to catch action in real time, price stamped and moving, you might want to use an alert. If you're looking to slow things down you might want to use the top list because it's a real good way of finding nice setups. Here's another one, HubSpot. You've had nice move, probably gave back more than I would like to see it do, but nonetheless, the nice little hammer today. Once again, you could just go in. Steve, is it our idea to share alerts with them? So I don't want to just throw everything out, but I'm trying to just show them how to use price alerts. But do we want to actually share these today? Or
yeah, I'll go ahead and share it. I've got your pullback above 50, so just keep going at it.
Okay, I'll just go through. Okay, good, good. Now you share the ones that look really good. I'm just trying to show them how they can use the alert. There's another one, lifestyle, nice little, flush out, a couple of wicks down. So if you're swing trading, if it breaks down through this 76 level, you're out. So you got 80 cents to the downside, and who knows what you have for the upside. Duke, I'd like a little bit deeper of a pullback, but that's just maybe showing its strength, more strength there. So nonetheless, another little hammer there. So you can see the setup bar, guys, here.
And line.
Yep, and there's another one, Dominion. Now, I will say this: when the market is pulling back, you tend to get better and a lot more alerts. The other day, I had actually like 70 something in here. So there was a lot to go through.
You know what, Andy? Let
me pull over.
Well, if you got one more, let's go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I'm just trying to show some functionality here. What if you wanted to see on a top list and you missed it, what yesterday's close looked like? How would we do the history?
Sure.
Some good functionality here.
Very, very good point, Steve. And basically, say I missed it and I wanted to see what came through yesterday, I would go to use historical date. I always like to put in 5 minutes before the close because it's going to give you it's going to give you a 5-minute time frame anytime you put in a time. So, and I'm going to go to date, put on the 29th. And for some reason, this historical date on this top list takes a little time. I'm not sure what it has to go out there and grab, but it does take a little bit of time for some reason. But do not be alarmed; it will come.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's not just me. I've seen. There it goes.
There we go.
Okay, so there you go. So and that's another beauty. If you create an alert like this and you want to see how well it performed, let's go back a few days and see if any of these worked out. And I haven't done this today. There's one that would have triggered and got you a little bit of I know that gold didn't work. Gold got bit today. This Kogo has been coming in for, I think it's been here on it the last 3 days. But look at there, it went off on this day right here. If you go back and do a go back to a historical date on this date right here, you're going to find this one. That's a beautiful one there. Just got driven down for 5 days. Nice little hammer, and it's building off of it. So anyway, so that's what you have to do. So now I'm going to move over here to Steve's little one he created, oversold above 5-day SMA. Now, what this I'll let Steve explain it to you because he knows a little bit more about this.
Well, if you've got it, break it open.
The 5-day moving average.
Okay, well, I'll explain that. Break open the configuration real quick if you can, so I can just remind myself what's in there. The 5-day moving average is basically 15-minute candles quantified over 130 periods, and this was taken from Brian Shannon, who is an excellent educator. And the 5-day moving average is usually kind of a guiding hand that a lot of people don't see. It's very close to VWAP. A lot of times the 5-day moving average seems to kind of be in a similar fashion with VWAP. I gave Cy an answer a second ago. What do you consider oversold? And I said, well, whatever my eye sees. I don't really have a data point for it, but in this case, great question, because I had to put a data point in there for it. And what you'll notice is position in 20-day range. What that means is a 0 is a 20-day low and a 100 is a 20-day high. So I'm saying cap it off at 20% above the 20-day low. So in this case, I'm defining oversold as something that's basically no more than 20% above its 20-day low. So we can define oversold in many different ways. But the flip side is one step lower, the change above the 130 period, which is basically that 5-day moving average at the bottom, it has recovered nicely. It's at least 0.01% above. So it's showing me on the last day, yes, it's oversold in a 20-day market, but in the recent candle, we've been able to close and come back above that guiding hand, which is the 5-day moving average I've been starting to use a bit more now that we have that filter. So this just gives us another way of looking at, some stocks like even Andy had, some pullbacks, but these may be a bit more of extreme type pullbacks. But once again, it's yet just another way to click through and see what we got at the end of the day. And if there's something on the charts that we like, we just mark it up with our price alerts and wait for that price action to come to us. That's about all I had to say on that. What I was going to also suggest, Andy, is if there's an alert window that you have handy, we can also do homework with alert windows. We've been doing our demonstrations here for how to use top list windows to go back and grab the history and see what it looked like when it closed. But when we have an alert window, these are the alerts that have the A in the upper corner, and they typically come through in real time. And so if you just leave the program and then come back to it, you're probably only going to see 2 or 3 of the most recent ones. In this case, it's after hours. There it is. There's the last one of the day, ADP. Well, if we wanted to do some homework, let's say it was Saturday. Let's say it was Saturday. So you would go to yesterday. Okay. Believe it or not, right? Because, if today was, I'm sorry, yeah, that would show you Friday. So in this case, yesterday is showing us yesterday, Wednesday. It was a day off. But there's a real interesting, easy history button there in the alert windows. It just depends on how many you have coming through the day. But it's a way to go back into history and see, hey, what did I miss today? What was closing strong? What was looking interesting? So favoring, the end of the day type stuff, and then just double clicking in and looking at your charts and saying, well, that's kind of congested. I'm not interested in that. Well, that has a horrible topping tail. I'm not interested in that. But hey, look at this one. This thing actually looks interesting. I'm going to go ahead and mark this up for Monday using my price alerts. Now, have we done a demonstration yet of using a price alert with trade ideas for those that are going to have that functionality?
I did. I mean, I did, but we could do it again.
Let's do one more just to show people how once we identify a level on a chart that we want to mark up, how we go into the chart. And for those of you, on the premium, it's available to you on the right click. You just right click inside the chart of the area you're looking at, and you do what's called set price alert.
Okay, I'm not really actually setting this, but say for example, this has a nice little downward sloping trend, and you want to see if it breaks this trend, you might have a decent move out of this. I got this off my bouncing off the 50 SMA. I kind of took this and just took it one step further, and made it into alert. I want to see stocks that are bouncing off the 50-day moving average. That's why you see change from 50-day moving average at all zeros when it comes through here. So this is one that's yesterday that bounced off its 50-day moving average pretty much at the low of the day right here, going over here to the 15 minutes are. So say I'm looking at this, got a nice bouncing off this 50 potentially. It's got a downtrend that it's trying to break. Let's say if it breaks this downtrend, I want to set this maybe above this high going back right here. You simply just right click. Looks like I got it right there on the spot. You create alert. Long, and maybe make a little note in here.
Notes are so important, to give yourself notes to remind yourself, your future self, of what your current self is thinking about this trade. And anything you can do to have efficiency and time when these alerts go off and get your head around why this thing popped up and why you liked it, the better. So those notes will certainly help. So can't recommend enough. People doing homework on the weekends, looking for ideas, even people in the open house over the weekend kicking the tires, you'll be able to use the functionality of this right click. I highly recommend setting half a dozen of these things a day, letting them trigger, and then seeing where they go after they trigger. It's the ultimate paper trading tool. You don't have to actually trade them, but it can be a great teaching tool because it'll give you feedback of where you're setting your alerts and what the price is doing afterwards.
Oh yeah. And one of my things I love to do is setting pullback alerts. Anytime I'm looking through a chart and I say, whoa, if this thing comes down to here, even if you're not thinking of maybe buying it for, it may take 2 weeks to get down there. It's okay. Put an alert in there, and next thing you know, 2 weeks later, it flashes off, and you got a beautiful entry, and you're like, I remember setting this, and then you can take a look at it. I mean, it's all in the preparation, guys. Not so much into just jonesing to jump in a trade real quick. It's just it's all in the preparation.
Somebody just asked me to share that, so I have a copy of that, the 5-day oversold bounce, and so it's in the questions box, guys. James asked for it, so anybody should be able to grab it. I sent that to everybody.
I'll also put my pullback in there, above this pullback above 50, for those you guys who may want it. I'll label it pullback. I put mine in the chat window.
Okay.
And guys, so you find the chat window, you'll be able to find that cloud, and you just click on it and copy that URL and go to your load from cloud, and it'll be there. Just have to hit load.
Yep.
But Steve, I think we gave them some ideas when, especially you guys who are out here kicking the tire, are going to be doing the a test drive that's coming up soon. This is going to be good stuff for you on the weekends when you do have the product, because you're going to have it for 2 weekends. Don't let it just sit there. Put it to use, and you'll be amazed what you can do with it. So with that being said, Steve, if you don't have anything else to add, or
no, that should do it. Let's bring Scott in.
All right. Let's bring Scott in. Let me fire back up the hold on here. Let me get this out of the way. And Scotty.
Yeah, there you go.
Would you like to come in here and tell them what these guys can do with this stuff?
Thank you. Yeah, we have a beta available for interactive brokerage clients who want to try out our Brokerage Plus. If you have an active interactive brokerage account, there's no reason why you shouldn't at least investigate it. Go to trade-ideas.com/beta to get the latest build. There's forgot to include the link, but there's a video on our YouTube channel in the playlist. Just search for Interactive Brokers on there, or Brokerage Plus, and then you'll find it. And it'll give you a rundown. If you run into any difficulty, just email info@trade-ideas.com. But it lets you manage your portfolio and automate trading through your Interactive Brokerage account directly from Trade Ideas using strategies from Trade Ideas. So it's pretty neat. It's the future. We'll be bringing it out for more brokerages soon, but right now it's just for interactive brokerage. So give that a shot. Check it out. Any questions, again, email info@trade-ideas.com for help running that. We also have a podcast, and there'll be a new episode up tomorrow. We'd like you to subscribe. You can search for Trade Ideas Podcast in whatever app you use to listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, iHeartRadio. There's a whole bunch of them. Just search for Trade Ideas Podcast. You should find it in that. If you don't see it, email us, let us know. Dan's going to have a special guest on, I think, for tomorrow. I'll find out soon. There is also a discount code for you today, and you can go ahead and use that code for 15% off your first month or year of either standard or premium. Guide to Alpha. It needs to be all caps for the letters like you see it there. You can also download a handout with this information and some of the other cards informations at the handouts panel on your GoToWebinar interface. Just expand, click on that little arrow or plus next to your handouts where it says handouts on your panel near the chat, and you can download that PDF. Use this code before the end of the month to save that 15%. It also the standard version, just like the premium version, includes that full hour of one-on-one training. So after you've downloaded the software, become a subscriber, and used it for a couple of days, gone to the trading room, watched some of our getting started videos, then you're going to have some questions. So you're going to want to go ahead and schedule that appointment at that time, and made it real easy for you to do, and it's free. So it's the best way to get started. Any questions, just shoot us an email, or info@trade-ideas.com is the best place to send those questions. The 619 number is mostly for billing issues. And it's only we only have it staffed during business hours on the West Coast time, but if you don't get an answer, just leave a message. We'll get back to you. Again, though, if you have a question about using the software or making a setup, if you have any difficulty using the software, creating a strategy, you have a question about how to trade, that's for info@trade-ideas.com, because that goes into our help desk software and goes to the appropriate team member with the knowledge to answer that question. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is where we are on Facebook. If you follow our page there, you can share some unique content we only post there with your friends on Facebook. And also, you can follow Steve Gomez at Today Trader or Jamie Hodge at QuantBot on Twitter. Dan Merkin, our CEO, is at Trade Ideas 1. We also have at Trade Ideas and a handful of other Twitter handles you can stumble across. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Keep an eye out in your emails for some details about an upcoming test drive event that will be happening about mid-April. That should be a pretty exciting time. And thank you, Andy. Thank you, Steve. Have a good one.
See you next
Thanks,
week.
Scott.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.